to them it became like, oh, you changed. Why did you stop giving us this? And why are you constantly talking about Pan-Africanism? And, why are you constantly talking about the West? And go back to giving us exposés about the people who are stealing our money. That's what they want to hear.
So that's where some Nigerians don't get you.
A lot of Nigerians just don't understand. Like the things I'm saying are like, it's like I'm speaking Greek. Like they just do not understand.
In the comments, I saw a couple of there were mixed. The people who totally love you from Nigeria, and the people who don't. Why do you think there's that mix? Because like where does that come from? Because like you have been dedicating your life into uncovering injustice, corruption, and neo-colonialism in Nigeria. Why do you think some Nigerians don't like you?
Yeah, so I think, again, a lot of how we are socialized, and this is not just a Nigerian thing, this is an African thing, I think. We're socialized into thinking that the way to be acceptable to society is to make yourself small, is to be self-effacing, but not in a positive way. It's like to walk into a room and occupy no space in the room, to be unspectacular, to be ordinary, and that's what an ideal person is, like being humble, quote unquote. Now, when they come across someone who is the exact opposite of those things, I make no attempt to be any of those things. I am well aware that if I walk into a room, there's a good possibility that I'm going to suck up a lot of air in the room. It's not necessarily deliberate, but
it's just automatic.
Again, when you've developed yourself to a certain extent, there's a certain presence that comes with it. Not everybody knows how to handle the fact that you know your shit. Not everybody knows how to handle the fact that you back yourself up. Many people really, really find that disagreeable. Like, there are so many people that I've come across who they will admit privately that actually there's nothing this guy says that they don't agree with. But their entire issue is we don't like his style, don't like his tone, don't like his manner. He rubs me off the wrong way.
Yeah.
And again, that's not a me problem, that's a them problem, because it means that you cannot get over yourself long enough to resonate with a message. And you are just focused and fixated on who and what the messenger is or is not. So it is what it is. It's a problem I've dealt with for as long as I can remember, where as long as I'm being small, as long as I'm not doing anything, nobody really cares whether I'm in the room or not. But the minute I start talking and I happen to be good at what I'm doing, and I'm well informed, and I can back up my position, because I'm not just someone who maybe knows how to write well. I will also speak publicly, but some claim that I even speak better than I write. I don't know how true that is.
That's true.
I do visual work as well, so I can basically put my points across in like a multitude of equally potent formats. And it's like, okay, so what do we do with this guy? So it almost becomes almost like an envy thing. Like, who does this one think he is? Like, what's he trying to do? So it's not okay. It's not enough that you should just be a journalist, maybe who like wins prizes and stuff. You're also an author, and then you become a best-selling author. And it's like, because that was definitely 100% a thing that happened as well. There were all these communities. There are people who just absolutely detest me because they feel like we've been here for all these years. And this guy just spawns out of nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere in 2019. And all of a sudden, he's just, sucking up all the air in the room. Who does he think he is? And it's like, well, first of all, I didn't come from nowhere. I've been around for a very, very long time. It's just maybe you didn't know of me until 2019. That's a you problem, not a me problem. And regardless, I don't spend my waking hours thinking about how somebody makes me feel, or thinking about whether I like somebody's tone and presentation and manner. I think that is with all due respect to teenage schoolgirls, that's something that teenage schoolgirls would do.
Okay.
Right? I feel like if you're a functioning member of adult society, you're supposed to have gotten past those teenage insecurities and anxieties that you have, and you're supposed to be able to look past certain things. So if someone is putting a message across, is this message true? Is it needed? Is it having an impact? And then from there, you make your decision as to whether you resonate with what the person is saying or not. But there are so many people in Nigeria specifically who do not know how to do that. The entire thing is, I don't like this person. And that's it.
Just because?
There are a lot of people that I don't necessarily like, but it doesn't stop me from engaging with what they do or seeing the need for them to exist.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is. Even within this sort of decolonial, Pan-African, anti-imperialist space, it's not everyone that I would say I like, quote unquote. There are a couple of people I probably wouldn't be friends in normal everyday life.
Me too.
But it doesn't stop. We're on the same side.
Yeah.
We're fighting for the same thing.
Yeah.
So ultimately, the goal is to accomplish that thing we're trying to accomplish. We don't have to be friends.
Accomplish the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
But my question is, do you think that generally, do you think that generally in Nigeria, people love you, like they love your work, and they're like, man, David is the guy?
I don't know about love. So audiences in general, especially Nigerian audiences, are very fickle. What I've learned, especially over the past couple of years, because this has been quite a journey, is that when I was doing sort of crash bang investigative journalism that was focusing on symptoms, I got all the love in the world. All the love, all the admiration, everybody constantly, they meet me anywhere, they want to take pictures. I was getting like quasi-celebrity treatment.
Okay.
As soon as I transitioned away from attacking symptoms and I started focusing on the systemic
macro
issue, which is that Africa just fundamentally lacks sovereignty. Like all of these issues can be boiled down to that. Africa is not in control of Africa. And I guess maybe a lot of these people, their minds are not big enough to understand this macro explanation for everything. They just can't see it. It's so big that they can't see it. To them, it became like, oh, you changed. Why did you stop giving us this? And why are you constantly talking about Pan-Africanism? And, why are you constantly talking about the West? And go back to giving us exposés about the people who are stealing our money. That's what they want to hear. And it's like, yeah, I could do that. But now that I know that even the people that are stealing the money, they are not the people who are actually coming up with these things on their own. So someone like Ibrahim Babangida, for example, if you had asked me about him 4 years ago, that was my biggest grouse with him. And I've told you my biggest grouse is that he stole $12 billion Gulf War oil windfall, which he did. But knowing what I know now, I know that, first of all, even the existence of that $12 billion Gulf War oil windfall and the manner under which it got disappeared from the Nigerian government budget, that was not of his own originality. Because what basically happened was, under him, Nigeria went into a structural adjustment program. Naira was devalued by, several times. The country, that's when for the first time Nigerians started leaving Nigeria. So the existence of a Nigerian diaspora began under him. Prior to that point, people used to migrate to Nigeria. Under him, Nigeria became a net source of immigrants. So the Nigerians living in Roysambu or wherever, that became a phenomenon under Babangida. He was the guy, right? He was the guy who took Nigeria from a place that you wanted to be in to a place you wanted to escape from. That was him, right?
Wow.
Now the Gulf War happens. There's an oil windfall, and there's the possibility to reverse all of the damage that the SAP has done. All of it. There's that possibility. And instead, he gets told that this money shouldn't go into the national budget, because that's what happened. The money didn't go into the national budget. It went into a bunch of private pockets. And he gets told literally that this money shouldn't go into the government, because if it goes into the government budget, it's going to be used to build infrastructure. It's going to be used to fund state-led industrialization programs. It could have transformed Nigeria. It could have reversed all the damage done through the SAPs. And Nigeria would be a different place today. Instead, that money was funneled into like
people's pockets,
and the money itself was never domiciled physically in Nigeria. So it was diverted to people's pockets, but those pockets were located in the Cayman Islands and in Switzerland and in London. So the money never left the West. So knowing what I know now, I can put two and two together, and it becomes very clear to me that he was under instructions that this money must not leave the West. That was the whole point.
Okay.
So I know that now. So I can sort of see what the bigger issue is now. So the issue was not that Babangida was a thief, which he was, but that was not the issue. The issue was that he was not in control of his own government.
Okay.
That's the issue.
That's the issue.
I feel like most people haven't been able to connect those dots.
Yeah.
So because they haven't been able to connect those dots, and I have, everything I'm saying is just going over their heads.
Over their heads, huh?
Just don't understand why is David sounding like this nowadays? What happened to him? You know, I see a variation of this comment so many times. What happened to him? He used to be such a promising journalist. Now he has started associating with these communist people. You know, I see a variation of that comment at least once every day.
Communists, man.
At least once every day. Like if I go into my mentions now, I'm sure I'll see a variation of that comment. Like, oh, you know, he has changed. You know, some accuse me of working for the ruling party now.
Or how? I mean, like, why? Like, why would they even think that? Because you're always criticizing Tinubu. So.
But they're like, he's always saying that it's not an election that is going to take this guy. He's trying to stop us from voting out Tinubu. He's working for the government, you know. I'm always accused of one thing or the other. And then there's also the ones who, from the get-go, they never really understood anything that I wrote, even when I was in my crash bang era. They just enjoyed the spectacle.
Okay.
This was all entertainment, right? I shoulder some responsibility here too, because my whole thing at the time was that no matter how good journalism is, if people don't read it, it hasn't accomplished anything. So I wanted my work to be visible. So, for example, the way I used to write my stories, I don't know if you read some of my own stuff, it was written in a very non-standard format. It was written almost like a crime thriller novel kind of format. It wasn't written like a standard news report. So that made it so popular. But I feel like a lot of people just enjoyed the spectacle.
Okay.
They never really engaged with what was in those stories. How I'm so convinced about this was, so recently, my team and I, we went to the Iranian embassy in Accra. I saw that. Yeah, we went to sign the condolence register for the now deceased supreme leader of Iran. And a lot of the comments we're getting, a lot of the backlash we're getting was, aren't you the guy who wrote Conflicts for Jihad, the Boko Haram origin story? That was a story I wrote in 2021 about the origin of Boko Haram, where I linked it to Saudi Arabia and the US State Department, right? And they were saying, aren't you the guy? And I realized that these people never read the story. Because Iran was never mentioned in that story at all. And in fact, Iran and Saudi Arabia are direct. They stand for the opposite of what each other stands for. They do not get along at all. So, like the very idea that Saudi Arabia would have that Iran would have anything to do with Boko Haram is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard before. Because Boko Haram, obviously, they're Wahhabi, Salafists. We know where that ideology comes. It's a Saudi ideology, which is directly at odds with Shia Islam, which is what Iran practices. In fact, if you a Christian or African traditional religious or non-religious person, if you were to be seen by one of these Wahhabi, Salafi terrorist types, and they see what's it called, the Shia Muslim, who is a Muslim like them, they'd rather kill that person rather than you, because that's how much they hate each other.
Wow.
So how can you say, how did you read that story and come away with the idea that Iran was somehow involved in terrorism in Nigeria? That experience made me realize that this story, which looked like it was the biggest thing out of Nigeria that year, then on my Substack, I think it's still the most read thing on my Substack. It got 1.5 million reads.
Ooh, wow.
You know, and at the time I felt like, wow, I am having such an impact. But now, with the benefit of hindsight, I'm looking at it and I'm like, these people just skimmed through this thing. They were just sort of ingesting the vibe, if that makes sense. They were not reading and assimilating the information. They were just enjoying the vibe. Some of them never even actually clicked on the link and read the story. Some of them just assimilated bits and pieces of it from their friends who were discussing it on TikTok and on Twitter. And they just enthusiastically joined in the conversation without having actually read the source material.
Okay.
Yeah. So to those people now, why have you switched up on us? You used to give us these,
tasty stories.
Exactly, these thrillers. And now you spend all your time talking about Pan-Africanism and African trade and sovereignty and foreign intervention, and talking about how Africa needs to protect, African government needs to become sovereign and become independent of foreign influence, and how the CIA is behind so much of our media and things that we consume, and you're always talking about CIA. That's become a whole thing on Nigerian social media. Oh, this guy is CIA man. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's that particular brand of dumbass who I guess was never really my audience.
So that's why some Nigerians don't get you.
A lot
A lot of Nigerians
they just don't understand. Like, the things I'm saying are like, it's like I'm speaking Greek. Like, they just do not understand. If I say, there was a story that I did last year where I was able to show that. So there's this website in Nigeria. It's called zikoko.com. It's a popular like Gen Z youth lifestyle website. And one day I was on a popular Nigerian forum called Nairaland, right? It's kind of like Reddit, but like a Nigerian Reddit, right? So I was on the front page of Nairaland, and typically to be on the front page of Nairaland, you more often than not you pay to have your topic promoted there. I know how it works. And I saw a topic that was clearly paid, like this was clearly being promoted. And what caught my attention was what it was, because it was a topic about someone's experience of having emigrated from Nigeria.
Okay.
And so I clicked on it and I read it, and I realized that, okay, this is a link from Zikoko. And I followed the link, and I realized that it's a whole series on Zikoko. It's called 1,000 Ways to Japa. Japa is a Nigerian slang for emigration, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I went through this series, and I realized that at the time, they were like 30. It was a weekly series, and I think it was like 30 weeks in. And I think of 28 of those 30 were experiences of people who had migrated to like Western countries, so like UK, US, Germany, I think one had migrated to another African country, which was, I think, Rwanda. And I think one had migrated to Ukraine, which was, I don't know why you'd go to Ukraine. And it just struck me as odd that why is someone paying Nairaland to promote a story about immigrating from Nigeria? What is going on here? And I went through that series. I went through it painstakingly, and I realized that what is literally being advertised to Nigerian Gen Zs is that their real life begins when they flee Nigeria. That no matter what you do, just make sure you emigrate.
You get out.
Make sure you emigrate. Right? And it's not emigrating in the sense of maybe finding opportunities in another African country, which you can still be of benefit to Africa. No. It's that move to the UK, move to Australia, move to Canada, move to New Zealand, move to the US. And I thought, how odd that someone is paying for this to be
Yeah,
promoted?
yeah,
Why
yeah.
would you pay for this to be promoted?
Yeah.
Like, what is, and this is like, typically the kind of people who would pay for that kind of thing are maybe like people who are like trying to sell you visa advisory services or something. But this isn't that. Someone is literally trying to advertise the concept of immigration to Nigeria's youngest people. What's going on? And I went down the rabbit hole and I realized that this thing is being funded by Luminate. Luminate is part of the Omedia network, which is basically a CIA affiliate. Right. So if you're familiar with what happened in 2014 in Ukraine, the so-called Maidan coup or revolution, as they call it, the Omedia network was responsible, and this is on public record. The CIA itself has admitted as much on its reading room, that the Omedia network was funding a lot of this so-called independent media in Ukraine to stir up people against the then president, Viktor Yanukovych.
Oh.
So that's basically, so the CIA cannot necessarily come out openly and tell Ukrainians, rise up against your government because we don't want this government. This government is pro-Russia. We don't want it. We want to install a pro-Western government. So instead, one of their affiliates goes and starts funding independent media to start pushing these narratives, because that's actually what the CIA does. People think the CIA is like this James Bond entity that goes around.
That's how they market it.
Yeah, with guns and secret poison and stuff. No, it's primarily an information warfare tool. That's primarily what it does. And it goes around, because that's what intelligence is, and counterintelligence. It goes around using information to poison what it considers to be enemy territories. And that's what was done in Ukraine. And that resulted in that 2014 coup. So that same entity is pouring money into Nigerian content and telling young Nigerians that they need to leave Nigeria. Not that they need to engage with Nigerian politics or try and save Nigeria, try and, stage some kind of political revolution to change Nigeria's reality. That no, they just need to run away. And it's very important to understand that the readership of these websites, these are not riffraff, right? These are the type of Gen Zs who had some measure of decent education, who consider themselves to be up to date with the world. They use technology. The people who can be useful to the West in some way, shape, or form are being told that there are opportunities for you out there in the West. And every week there's a new story of a Nigerian who has left, talking about how
good it is.
all their dreams came true.
Yeah.
After they left Nigeria. Right. So I put out that story last year. And I was trying to explain that a lot of what you are consuming in your so-called Nigerian media is foreign propaganda, and it's serving someone else's economic and geopolitical interest. And the extent to which the audience of that story did not understand. Like, to date, they just did, like, it went so far above everyone's head. Like, the implications of what I was telling them, that a foreign intelligence agency is pouring money into your media and information space to tell you to leave your country. Think about the implications of that. Why is a foreigner telling you to leave your country? So you are making these decisions that have very, very significant effects both on your country and on the place that you're going to. Because you are denying your country of the benefit of your skills, your labor, whatever. You are giving those things to someone else. For the most part, you are going to be underpaid and overexploited in those places because it's cheap labor that you're going to end up doing almost inevitably. And this is being marketed to you as your big breakthrough opportunity in life, and someone is paying for it. Just think about the implication of that. Like, this is direct interference.
It is.
In your society. And I'm saying these things and like nobody understands. It's just, oh, this guy has come again. CIA, conspiracy theorists.
White supremacy. Yeah.
That's probably what I find the most frustrating part about all of this, is that a lot of this stuff is not hidden. These are not theories. These are things that you can go to www.cia.gov/reading room. The reading room is the part of the CIA's website where you can find these declassified documents.
Oh.
Read through declassified documents. A lot of this stuff, the agency basically brags that it did this stuff. When I did another story earlier this year talking about how a lot of what you think of as your Christianity nowadays, it's a CIA creation. People said, oh, this guy has come again. CIA man has come. He's claiming that CIA created. I'm like, the form of Christianity that you practice, that most of us practice, this evangelical prosperity gospel Pentecostal thing, this thing is less than 60 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a Cold War. It's a result of the Cold War. It's a creation of the Cold War era, where basically, at the time, what the CIA considered to be one of its main threats. It says this openly, by the way. Mm-hmm. They are declassified documents, which I've put into the public domain before, and people didn't read. The links are, you can search to my Twitter for this. They said that they considered something they called prosperity, salvation, what's the term again? Liberation theology to be one of their main ideological threats during the Cold War. Liberation theology was a form of Catholic Christianity, which was very popular in Latin America and was starting to grow in Africa, especially in Southern Africa, which analyzed the world using Marxist analysis.
Okay.
So that was the crime of liberation theology. They claimed that people who practiced liberation theology were communists.
Mm-hmm.
So they needed to create a counterbalance to liberation theology, because what liberation theology basically said, its central premise was that people have the power to change their own material conditions, either by taking political action or by taking direct action, crowdfunding, working together to build infrastructure, that sort of thing, which is essentially collectivism, which is one of the tenets of communism, right? And the CIA said, no, you are promoting communism. We are fighting a Cold War against communism. We are fighting for capitalism. So we need to create a counterbalance. So they created this prosperity gospel thing. Some of the most well-known preachers that you know of, it's no coincidence, they all, in some way, shape, or form, they're all connected to this institution called Oral Roberts University in the US. It's a Christian theological university in the US, which basically served as one of the main incubators for this newfangled form of evangelical Christianity, where instead of collectivism, you're taught that everything is about the individual, your individual salvation, right? So relationship with God is no longer necessarily a collective thing. It's now an individual responsibility.
Go get that money, go get that house, go get
your material salvation, getting money, getting the job you want, getting to the school you want, buying a house. All of that is now a function of your own personal belief and ability to get what you want. So your own faith in God. Wow. If you pray hard enough, if you believe hard enough, regardless of how everybody else around you is doing, you can be the exception. Right? Which is, again, one of the premises of capitalism, the precedence of the individual over the collective.
Wow. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying, and they exported this thing from the US. So which is why between the late 60s and particularly the early 70s is where all of these movements exploded across Africa and the global south. It's not by accident. All of these movements, both the prosperity gospel preachers, the the charismatic cult people, because they're a different segment of the same thing, the sort of semi-obscure Christian cults, all of them that originated from the US, so like the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormon Church, that's when they all migrated to Africa. So like my dad, for example, he went to university in Ghana in between 1971 and 1975. No, between 1972 and 1976, right? It was in Ghana that he became a Jehovah's Witness. That was where he made contact with them. All of this wasn't by accident. This mass migration of Christian and allied cults, churches, beliefs, faiths from the US to sub-Saharan Africa. It happened during that time. It was because of the Cold War. And they have said so openly, and they have said what their reasoning was. They were basically trying to provide a counterbalance for liberation theology. They're trying to promote capitalism.
So that's why there are many, there are many prosperity pastors in Nigeria.
Yeah.
There are many, even here in Kenya, there are many.
Yeah, and that's how come they grew so explosively. Because a lot of that growth, newsflash, a lot of the money that supported that growth wasn't just contributions they exploited their members, obviously. But a lot of that money wasn't coming from their members. A lot of that money was coming from the US government. So that explosive growth of all these churches springing up like ants all over the place, that shit was coming out of a foreign intelligence budget.
Wow.
And they have said so. It's not like a thing that I'm inferring or something. They have said so, that this is what they did to win the Cold War.
Wow.
So when you try and tell this to my audience, CIA man has come again. Meanwhile, the CIA itself said so. But put those links in front of them. There's this mental block that has been installed in their brains. They just cannot and will not engage with certain things because they know that if I engage with this, my entire worldview is going to be broken. I'm going to realize how much I don't know.
And they're scared of that.
Exactly.
They're scared of that turning point moment.
Exactly. So the easier thing to do is laugh, haha, CIA man, and go back to talking about football or whatever.
Yeah. Nigerians and Kenyans, we love football.